today is a special show because I have two true local rock stars, local legends, right?
As we think
And
so.
it's also my season 1 finale.
Oh,
So Twinkle and Tony, welcome to the show.
thank you.
Thanks for having us.
That's
I'm very
awesome.
excited to have you guys, man.
Thanks,
That's gonna be a lot of fun.
That's super
Yeah.
cool.
We're looking forward to
We
it.
have a lot to unpack here. And what I want to do is I want to take our viewers on a journey, right? We're going to talk about, your career. We're going to talk about all your wonderful music, but I really want to dig into the original stuff because on the way over here for maybe the 5th time, I was listening to your new album, Freaks and Weirdos.
Uh-huh.
First of all, why the title, Freaks and Weirdos?
Because I felt like a freak my whole life and weirdo. And I actually, it came out, when you're writing a song. But to me, songs about and stories about the underdog, the street urchins, the people that everybody thinks are on the outside, those are my favorite people, is the characters. I was raised with a true love of characters, and we are definitely that.
Now, are you writing lyrics and then, Tony, are you writing the music and it comes together like an Elton John, Bernie Taupin?
No, actually, the way
What's the
this
process?
I'm
Lenny.
music first, always melody first, and Lenny comes up with hooks now. Like I spent my whole life music and lyrics, and I had to prove myself. I
have a really I have to tell him this. This is the truth. When we met, and that's another thing. But when we met, I had worked with some all my heroes. There was a guy, Russell Arcara from Prophet. He's the only person I ever met. You know how you got guitar players. You and Lenny you can pick up a guitar. He can pick up a guitar. He can play, and you can play with him right now. You guys can just start playing together. I've never heard a singer do that ever. They have to sit with your melody, sit with what you've worked with, and then sit down with it and come up with a melody line. And
we only have an hour.
This person and Russell Arcara you start playing, you can start singing.
Okay,
right now,
Twinkle,
and that's what she does.
That tells me then that these things are living in your head, man. And then you hear something and it just comes right out. Like, it's like you're not really thinking hard about it. It's already there.
No words.
There. It's like plucking stuff. The right time. That's why when I was younger and they were going to put me in rooms with songwriters and we'd work for a half hour and you'd craft something. Like, that's not my bag. It's an inspirational thing. But I'll start with gibberish first. It's melody first to me, music first. And when I grew up, I was playing piano. That's my instrument. But that's where I would find all my thing. And then when I met Lenny, he's pretty much the first person I would start collaborating with because it was always like, no, it has to be all me. And I don't feel like that anymore. And he'll come up. He's just a hook master, that guy.
He is.
And this guy, Swamp, is his boom, boom, do. I remember running up and going,
cool.
what is that?
That's
And I
cool.
run tape. And so whenever they come up with anything, any of us, I'm always running tape.
I write darker, heavier stuff. Lenny and I, we had another guy, Joe Bravo, was our singer, greatest.
Like I could get my phone out right now and show you the voice recorder. And I have so many when we're doing sound check. Sanctuary, for instance, you brought it up earlier.
The song was called Sound Check.
It was called Sound Check because that was what they would do whenever we were doing a sound check.
Well, so there aren't a lot of really good songs over time been made because of sound checks? Like
Probably.
The Beatles and the Stones probably.
You're trying to do something that's very just nothing, straight 4/4.
That has everything in it.
So give me an A and 4/4 and just do it now so the sound guy can listen for everything, make sure he can hear everything.
And I love that rock and roll thing. That's one thing I never did because I don't rock on piano. I'm not a great piano player. But when I was little, I just had to find music. And it's like, what you don't like. Well,
there's certain chords you probably like that are pleasing to your ear.
Yeah, and you'll find them, and then you know what comes next. Oh, that's not it. That's not it. And so I have endless tapes that an ex-manager threw away, but all the tapes from my life of writing songs and stuff.
With
so
her,
it's always my drive.
Doing this band like this was just because we had, I was decidedly hard rock and heavy metal stuff. That's what I did, and that's what I was, and
it's what I grew up on.
And she asked me out of the blue one day, and this person, I hear her sing one of the greatest, she's the best on her instrument that of any musician I know. Like this person's amazing. Like, wow, what am I going to do to tell her anything?
Well, we're going to get into that because we're going to talk about your unique sound. See, I was trying to think what makes you unique, right? And there's a lot of things. There's several things. I think you're extremely genuine, right? There's no bullshit with you, right? I think you're completely honest. You probably wear your emotions on your sleeve, right? But I think this all lends to your stage presence.
Nice,
your stage presence is phenomenal.
Thank you.
You're engaging with your audience, okay? And I think you're eye candy. People like seeing you dancing around, man. They like seeing you move. You're flipping your hair, you're dancing. Then you'll maybe get down and do a little bongo.
I love that hand drum.
You know what I'm saying?
It's interesting. I like that you say that. Thank you. That means a lot. And when I was younger, because there's so many singers, obviously, in the world and so many songwriters, but what makes me is like my my intent and ability to connect emotionally. Like that's, so you have to keep peeling away. And if I ever teach people, I'm like, you got to go from here out your mouth. And if you put on stuff, it gets in the way between you and me. This, any
What do you
extra.
mean when you say put on stuff?
Put on like affectation or falsity or show business. Like my job is to be heart to you.
And it's true. I mean, it's obvious that that's working. I mean, if I had to put words on paper to describe your voice, how would you help me? Like,
wow,
what would you say? Soulful is definitely one word, but there's a lot of
it's
components.
Like a bell ringing. There's something about this thing. It's like, boom, like it's in your head.
Studio guys say she prints easy.
Prints easy?
Prints easy. That her voice is prints very easy. You don't have to do any EQing. You don't have to do anything to that to make it
the tone,
sit in the mix.
Right. The dynamic.
Yeah, it prints well.
I'll tell you something that I had this like you never have like it's not a dream, but it's sort of like a vision, but you're
wait.
asleep.
I have to finish.
This is we're never gonna get
No, I gotta finish my point because otherwise it sounds very it sounded terrible.
Go.
No, with Russell and you, like Lenny, when those two write, how the process works, Lenny he's playing something, has a riff or a hook, she'll record it right there and start singing something on the spot. Most of our songs come from that. The two of them starting there. I'll arrange stuff, maybe, but I don't get in between that. Stuff I write is decidedly heavier, more aggressive, darker.
It's great.
And I don't interfere with that.
That's what I like about the band. Do it. Blend. But on the voice thing,
it's something I never heard from him, and it's something I never heard from her.
I had a dream, and it wasn't a dream, but it was like a vision or something, like half awake. And it was, we're all dead, and we're up there in spirit world, whatever. And we're all trading what we learned in this life. What did you learn this time? Or what did you figure out? And my turn came up and we're all in a circle and stuff. And I go, I figured out how to transfer emotion through voice. And I start singing to the group.
And you were born with a gift. I mean, that you probably have the right genetics for it.
Definitely genetics.
You know what I'm saying? Like I think great singers are born and not necessarily made. Right.
And I realized in that group that none of us had actual corporeal bodies. We were spirit. So it's all intent. And I realized that my goal was to take emotion and transfer it and to help. When I was a little kid, I thought I'm here to save the world. And I realized I was just trying to help.
But at what age did you realize that you had talent and you were different than the other girls? And
really young. I remember that. And I know that the family saw it too, because they bought me a piano and stuff. And there was always this guidance to try and get, but there was also the big drive was to write my own stuff and to be myself. And that doesn't really fit in a lot of these parameters. Like if you're a young, talented person and you're in high school, they're guiding you towards music college. And if you go to music college, which is great. And sometimes I wish I had gone, but then they're grooming you for the orchestra or the,
I don't think
composition.
We say grooming for you. Mm-hmm.
Well, you're kind of, there's jobs.
But that's all that's at the disposal at that particular age and that particular time. That's all that's available, really, when you think about it.
And so I
had to play trumpet when I was a kid.
Right. I had to be out there. Like I would stand at anybody's stage. And so I was in bands and we were able to start playing. I lied about my age and I was in front of people. I wanted to be on stage in front of people. And that was from very young because I would go to ballet or I'd go to theater and I still have a problem going to concerts. I get this soreness in my gut. Like I want to be up there.
So it's not anxiety. It's not like
it's kind of anxiety,
but in a good way.
In a good way, but also like, why am I not up there? Like, what did I do wrong? So there's a lot.
You love the attention.
It's like it's my job.
Okay. That's what I do. I love the attention too, man.
I don't know.
Isn't that why we're doing this, man? Because we're kids.
I have a thing. I have to. Just had to do it. I always look at it this way. There's a lot of people that can play guitar and bass and drum. A lot of people can do all this stuff.
Because it can sing, have to sing.
Yeah, but a lot of people that can do it. A lot of people just absolutely have to. And my favorite singers, my favorite players, probably technically aren't that great. Steven Tyler is a miracle to me. But that guy's voice, Joe Cocker, Bon Scott, any of these people that have ravaged voices that sound like that's everything they do sounds like they're not Tesla. I mean, when it sounds like there's no way he's getting that note out, and then they do.
Like none of our heroes would make it through Star Search.
No way.
Except for Paul Rogers, probably.
Paul Rogers might make it, but they'd never make it through these things. But it sounds like it's everything they've got. It's all they've got.
So do you think that because we're all from the same group, like age-wise and the music,
that we're smarter about what kind of music is good?
But what you play as far as your originals,
yeah,
and maybe obviously your covers, it's a pool of all these wonderful things that you were growing up listening to. Like you mentioned
Yes.
Joe Cocker
Yeah.
and some of the older guys. You know, I grew up listening to John Paul Jones.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
Cream and
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Who and stuff.
I mean, come
And
on.
I know you're a big fan of Eddie Van Halen. So all these things I think get mixed up. And
Sure.
it translates into your style though, too. Because
Yes.
as you're playing,
Uh-huh.
maybe you might play a little bit like somebody, right? When you're
Yep.
Which
younger.
is awesome, you know. And I think when people go, "What kind of music do you guys do?" and I go, "Well, I guess it'd be like if Bad Company and Aerosmith had a baby with the Rolling Stones and Aretha Franklin and
That
Jimi
was a
Hendrix."
cool.
You know,
But the
Reveal
fact
we
that you
got.
threw Aretha Franklin there is cool because
Yeah.
you guys are a blues-based rock outfit with some soul.
Yeah.
like AC/DC.
You know what I'm
kind of
saying?
thing. Yeah.
Right. I mean, the Stones
Zeppelin.
started as a pure blues, and they were just doing covers, man. Right?
I
Yeah.
learned so much about that when Jerry Wexler handed me some box sets because he had a whole closet full. And he handed me all these things like, go educate yourself. So there's these old black dudes that I had never heard of. And I'm listening and I'm hearing Stones songs
Like
and
Muddy Waters
Zeppelin
stuff?
songs.
Yeah.
Yeah. But old names I've never heard of that were apparently the thing. And all these songs had been redone by Zeppelin and
Right.
fed back to me.
Right.
And that's how I understood the blues rock and roll connection. I was like, oh, the British and what the British invasion meant. Like in my country, the race thing, white kids couldn't go see the black music, but it wasn't the same over there. So those
That's
kids,
100% right.
they're going and watching this.
That's
They're
right.
buying these records.
Yeah.
My friends that were that age would have to sneak out or
Some of
hide
the
it.
parents were racist and they didn't
Yep.
want their kids listening to
You're not
black
listening
musicians.
to that. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were in the garbage cans, and then the London guys, the British guys, came over and went through the garbage cans
Yep.
and
Yeah.
took all those records and
Redid it and fed it back to us, you know, and it's like to
Remember
me
the
that's
first time you ever heard
fascinating.
Train Kept a Rolling? You ever
Sure.
heard that the
Yeah.
original? And you're
Yeah.
like, wow.
That was my face. I was listening to things and I thought the Stones
thought-
had written that.
yeah.
I thought Zeppelin wrote that. I thought, you know, and it's
So,
like,
so
no.
were you emulating? So, like as a child now, are you emulating your heroes? Like you're singing
Paul
in the
Rogers.
shower
I wanted
and you're
to,
singing that stuff?
Oh yeah. I wanted to sing like Paul Rogers. I wanted to be Paul Rogers. And when I actually did get to meet him face to face, all that childhood stuff came out. Like it'll make me cry even just thinking about it. I'm standing in front of the person that I heard countless, I can't even tell you
There's
how many
Howard Lee's.
hours of this child. And here he is standing right in front of me going, are you going to sing with
Hello.
me? Hello.
Yeah.
Are you going to be all right? And I'm just going, "Wah!" I had
Sure.
to leave
Yeah, but
the
you're
room.
entitled to that. You're entitled to that.
I
mean, come on.
couldn't do it. And then he invites me up and I sing with him. I'm like, that doesn't happen. That's amazing. I wanted a time machine to talk to that kid.
There's a lot to unpack right there, what you just said. So we're gonna do really quickly. When a guy like that brings you on stage, okay?
Oh,
I mean, how do you get through? Like, how do you give your best Twinkle performance
I don't know.
when you're nervous? Like, how do you do it?
I was so afraid of over singing or doing anything, you know, and his wife is standing, she's a beautiful blonde woman. She goes, just sing it all, get it
Was
all
it
out.
prearranged or was it like
No, it was,
What was the song?
okay, so it was Little Wing, and I had just done the Van Wezel concert, and I had sung. I love doing Little Wing. I love any Hendrix. I love doing any.
I like the
Hendrix.
fact that you have your own lyrics too. You kind of put them in.
Yeah.
I caught that the first time. I was like, what is going on?
Thank you. And Little Wing to me means a lot too, because that's when I realized I was playing with Richie Kickladder and Bert Inglesman, and we're in the 5-0. This is like 91 or something. And we're playing Little Wing, and I would make them stretch things forever.
Oh, it's an
So
easy song to stretch. Yeah.
I want all of it. I want everybody to take a solo. I want to take a solo. You know, I was really exploring, and people would tease me about it, especially my dad.
Dad say, hey, Twink, what are you going to do for your second set tonight? Hey, Joe.
And for me, it was so important. And I realized we were playing Little Wing, and I started singing like what you're talking about. But I started singing a different melody, and I heard a completely different thing, and I thought, oh, and that's when it dawned on me that all songs are basically the same chords, and it's all about your interpretation of
That's
stuff.
true.
And that's when I really started, you know, I just worship Hendrix songs. But I would love to do a whole album of Hendrix.
But when you do your covers, like when you choose, like when you're at a festival and you pick your cover songs, I'm assuming you do the set list.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
You have the ability to dig into some of these things, right? And you can pull those things out and put them
Yes.
together.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
I love doing because the songs we pick, the covers for the most part, are stuff that we all love.
We
and
usually
grew
just
up
go,
on.
you know, hey, and we don't ever look at anything. Just so, hey, remember, you want to do? And it was that. That's the most thought.
And we have to balance it with, we also have to work. And so you're playing the strange part, and I'm really grappling with it right now, is that we have the bread and butter gigs we got to do, but I want to do my all original shows. And
Sure.
how do we make a living doing everything?
That's a great question. My next question is then, how do you incorporate your originals, which are very, very good,
Thank
into
you.
your cover music. When, like, for example, I play in a cover band, and they pay us to make tourists and snowbirds come down and
Right.
dance.
Uh-huh.
So they want to hear familiar radio-friendly songs.
Exactly.
That's it.
So then how do you inject songs in there and keep that dance floor going?
We do it anyway. We just
So-
don't care.
You just pick the right time. They pick
That's the one thing I think that the Warner deal gave me out of everything was at least the clout enough to come home.
Yeah,
because I
you-
didn't stay out there. I came home. I kept working, but I was able to do whatever the fuck I wanted to. I mean, sorry, but because at that moment I was on all the newspapers, and so Twinkle can come in.
Well, if
and
you
do
get
whatever.
you get a couple of
Now-
major label deals, EMI, Warner, the other one.
But-
I was on.
but it still doesn't matter.
Oh, no, it
right?
doesn't matter. Like
The
they
clubs
always,
don't care.
yeah, hum me your last hit. They don't care what
Yeah,
who you
back
were
then it
playing
was
with.
different then, but now we'll do 3 songs and we'll put in an original. But
Yeah.
the good
But
part,
do you announce it? This is an original, or do you do it and then say that was an
I
original?
used to, but he said stop
Yeah,
saying it.
We don't have to. You don't
Because
have to introduce it as an original. You can
Because
tell
if
them
you
after.
don't, and then they love it,
I think doing it afterwards sometimes is good.
Yeah.
I think so
That's
too.
the way I
Then
look
they're
at
like,
it.
what was that? And you're like, that
I
was my
think so,
original.
too.
Yeah.
Right. And I used to give a big long speech about everything because I could, you could probably tell that I could ramble and go on forever. And there's a lot of dead air of me just talking. And so I think it's better when we just keep them grooving.
I agree.
And you
we
read the
keep 'em
room.
grooving
You
or
see what
move
kind
them.
of stuff it is. You know what they're into and what they're
Yeah,
like.
every room's different.
But there's a lot of those songs that it just I like to hear your interpretation of what that sounds like we are to you. I agree with you. When you described us to me.
I
Yeah.
love that.
That's
Well,
what I
here's the
like.
cool thing. So you guys have added an extra musician recently.
Yeah.
So now there's a 5th person.
Mick.
And as a result, you guys were doing some really cool 80s stuff that I didn't think I would ever hear from Twinkle and Rock Soul Radio.
Oh, I'm so
And it was-
happy
and
about
it was
that.
very cool.
Yeah, Mick.
Thank you.
You know, there were some cars in there.
That right? Am I right? Elliot Easton, is that
Yeah.
right?
And the 3
Amazing.
harmonies. And Mick throws in some cool stuff. And I like that he's a utility guy,
He could play anything.
And then Tony gives this little.
Well, he was.
What's the story behind that guy? Like, who
Mick-
is he? Where'd he come from?
We had
He's
Tommy
just
Zvonchek.
retired here.
Tommy Zvonchek was the keyboard player for Blue Oyster Cult for
Oh my
17,
God, you know,
18
we're opening up for
years.
Glorious to Cult.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
It's gonna be great.
Nice.
Yeah, I was-
And Tommy's an incredible musician and good guy, very good friend of ours. And he was, but he wasn't interested in joining and staying, but he likes coming up and playing with us every once in a while. And he goes, I got your guy. And he starts telling me about this
friend of
Mick
his.
Seeley. And I'm like, okay. So while he's telling me about it, I get a phone call. It's Mick Seeley. So I answered the phone. I start trying to tell him who we are. And he goes, yeah.
He'd
I
already
came
come to
down
a
here a
couple
couple of
shows.
months ago. I've seen you guys like 5 times. And I'm your guy.
And he's so nice.
Yeah, he kept
Right.
saying, I'm your guy. And I said, well, we're one of, he goes, yeah, I know. And
He's like, you got to audition still.
right. And he's like, I'm like,
He played
okay.
with us at Ferg's. We're like,
Well, I
okay.
didn't want to audition anybody else. I'm tired of all of it. So I was like, look, we're playing out at Ferg's. There's going to be a Nord stage piano up there. You hear something that come up and play. And if you hear something, sing, throw a harmony,
And I
go
haven't
ahead.
had a 4-piece since Mike Koch and me and Richie and
Oh, yeah.
Gary.
But we came in, all of a sudden I'm hearing, these chords that belong there that are never there. And all of a sudden I'm hearing it. And then a harmony part that's supposed to be, I'm a sucker for it, man. I love 50s doo-wop groups right next to my Metallica. And I'm hearing these harmonies like, and then guitar parts. I didn't know he brought a guitar.
So you passed the audition.
Oh, Flying Colors.
Yeah,
What a
and
guy.
He's been really
Peaceful,
nice
just a
to us.
really nice guy.
Is he on the new album?
No, he
No.
got here right after.
Right after we
But what
released
the
it.
cool thing with him, he was the guitarist for Ronnie Spector, keys for Dan Hartman, I Can Dream About You, a bunch of other
Bass
stuff.
player.
And
He's
bass,
the real deal.
yeah, and then the original bass player for Bon Jovi. And he wrote Runaway.
But we are going to re-release the album.
Runaway.
He wrote Runaway.
Man.
And what's funny
Well,
about
he
it,
wrote that part.
he wrote that
You
part,
can't-
the hook.
yeah,
Well,
no.
he's a co-writer. He finally got on the credits now that they made all the laws with digital stuff. And but everybody back in Jersey knows that David Bryan didn't come up with that hook. It was a Mick
Oh,
Seeley
no,
thing.
don't get into that right
No,
now.
it's
Are
funny.
you from New Jersey?
Yeah.
I'm from New York.
Well, born here, but most of the time, the only
Your
place I
teenage
lived,
years. And
Yeah. Jersey I was 7 from the time I was 20. That's where Big Bad Wolf landed.
there was a fun rock scene back then, man.
Oh yeah.
There's some good clubs.
I feel like they're so
TT
lucky
Quick.
that they went. Like I see it as a movie, and they got that moment, and it's not there anymore.
You remember TT
those
Quick?
clubs aren't
Remember any of
there
those
anymore.
guys? Yeah. Mark's the singer for Accept now. And
know
he
Accept.
was, yeah.
Hey, so guys, I want to get back to the album again.
Sorry.
Yes.
I'm gonna start. I'm gonna name the song title and real quickly just tell me a little something about
Okay.
it. Okay. So we're talking about Twinkle and Rock Soul Radio. We're talking about the new album Freaks and Weirdos,
Yes.
which you can get on Spotify, iTunes, right?
All the
Yes.
all
Okay,
usual
the opening
digital
track,
outlets.
Are You Ready? Which is a great name for an opening track. Give me a little snippet about that.
It was
Okay,
for the
another
working
one
title
where-
was Stonesy song.
Okay, so Lenny, don't, whenever he'd start that stuff, and I've got my phone recording, and I would just, it gets me. The rock and roll stuff, I love the hooks because I won't come up with that.
You
on
guys have great
piano.
hooks and great choruses.
Oh, no, and I think,
And that's what makes it good. That's what makes it special. That's a
and
special
so that
sauce.
song turned into about music. Like to me, my whole community is music. People that love music, people that play music. There's something about, especially rock and roll. And growing up when we did, which I think we're exceedingly lucky to have grown up when we did, is just this moving part of this is my congregation. I don't go to church. This is my church. And so that kind of thing, like
Hence sanctuary.
if you're lonely, sanctuary, exactly. It's been my church for 43 years. And if somebody needs help, we do a benefit. Everybody's together. When we sing together and dance together.
So Are You Ready is a song then that's you chose it to be your first song to kick off the album.
Because we were going to do Freaks and Weirdos as the first album because it goes, get on up. It's
Right.
really cool. But Bobby was mixing down and he was just mixing the backgrounds that are on the bridge and they were by themselves, just isolated the vocals. And I was like, that's so cool. Oh my God. So I said, let's start the record like
Okay.
that.
The Resistance.
Resistance. There's a
great story.
picture of Dad, which I'll find and you can put it in the notes.
Dad
There's
and
a
Uncle
picture of
Sid.
Dad and Uncle Sid, and they look like two just,
Straight up gangsters.
oh man. And they're
What year do you think that was?
58,
58.
maybe, something like that.
And they
Like,
get
they're
these
just-
shark skin suits on and the hair, and the
just
eyebrow.
sharp,
Trying to
looking
look cool.
sharp. A couple of Cajun boys, just
Trying to look cool.
in some dark club somewhere, and probably like rubies or whatever. And it looks like they're planning to take over the world. And so
Cool.
this story came up, The Resistance.
Beautiful Life.
I'm playing guitar and I'm watching the babies literally dancing outside in the rain. And I was thinking, these are the moments that this is what life's about. And the second verse about the spaceship, that actually happened. I can't tell if it was real or not, but
I'm
it
a
feels
believer.
real. I'm a believer. And I feel like this ship landed in the backyard. It was ground level and there was a blue plasma closet. And the intent, there's nobody in it. But the intent was you come on the ship and we'll take you where we are from.
And they chose you probably.
And yeah, and I was all about it. And I get
Very
in
cool.
there and I watch my house, my neighborhood, my planet go so fast. And then Ursula, who was 2 years old, is back at the house. And I was like, I can't go. And as soon as I thought that, I woke up and I was back in my house. And I know it was real.
That's cool.
And it was just like beautiful life to me. You know how you experience something and it's just a little thing, like a kid dancing in the
Yeah.
rain. And you're like, this is the moment. Everybody's always thinking about, I'm just going to lay on the beach and drink Mai Tais for the rest of my life. And that's my happiness. It's like, no, it's these little microcosms of happiness.
I agree. Biker love song. Come go with me.
Okay. So that's just like a little, love story thing. And I always love the Indian motorcycles, the 57, that classic one. And it's just come be with me, the art of letting go. When you learn to let go of the past and things you have no control over and that freedom. And that's what I wanted that song to have, that sense of freedom.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay. So
I misspoke earlier because this is the one I was talking about. Thank You is the one
So
that sounded like Stones. a
Thank
lot.
You was, it's like my life story in the industry and all the stuff. Like when you get signed to Warner Brothers and you're 25 years old and you've got a baby and a husband that's, you got this weird.
Did you have to move to Los Angeles?
I was there a long time. I still kept my house, but it was, that's a lot. But you think, okay, this is it. I'm signed to the biggest record deal with the biggest record label, and it didn't work. And I spent a year making that record and almost $1 million in production costs and everything. And then I come home and I get divorced, and then I have another baby, and I've got, years later, I'm an alcoholic, and just all the stuff that life,
Sure.
and especially being a girl in the music business, especially back then, like the hardships of being a mom, single mom, and just everything all together, trying to do all this stuff. And it gets so overwhelming. But I was so grateful for instance, when I'm in Montreux Jazz Festival, the only reason I was there is because Lenny Waronker, the president of Warner, called Quincy Jones and said, I have this girl, I'm sending her, she'll be there in 2 days. And he's like, no, I already have everybody. He's like, I don't care. And so they put me on there. purely because he believed in me. And moments like that where people would believe me. The only reason I opened up for Aerosmith is because somebody believed in me enough that I could handle that, things like that throughout my life.
I just realized something. We're going to have a part 2 to this show because of all the people you know. So we're going to keep going. So now the title track, Freaks and Weirdos, man, which I love this song.
This goes
and
back to
I don't know if you know this, but K-Love was here on the show recently.
Yeah.
She's on it.
Yaya's coming in, I think.
Oh,
next
cool.
week.
She's on it.
Yeah,
too.
she's on both of them.
Get on up. I still have a vision of those girls sitting on the couch and groove into it when they
You
first
picked
heard
two
it.
great ones to fit back you up, man.
Oh yeah. Oh my God.
What's really cool is they're very, very unique voices, and together it's thick, it's huge.
And Yaya's on the Resistance, and she's doing that low part.
Yeah, everybody thinks it's me. That's her.
Yeah.
Swamp, the Ballad of Buddy Yoakam.
Okay, so that's the one he's doing this boom, boom. I hear him upstairs, and I go up with my recorder. And
Now, what was the sound you got there? You went through a phaser? Like, was there some kind of chorus pedal?
Nothing.
Originally, it was the acoustic
Originally,
bass.
it was just an acoustic bass. And right now, what's on there, that's just a straight, that's that Fender Ultra. It's
Don't look at me. I don't
It's a Fender Ultra 5 straight into a Boogie M9 carbine. That's it. There's no effect on it.
It sounds like there's an effect on
right?
it.
I think it's out of phase. That right? You know when that center detente they have on the pickup knob, when you get them both at the same time, and you get that volume loss. That's that weird little switch
So
area.
was that a problem to record that on tape, or did you just get it done the first time?
It happened. No, I've always. That was one take through with me, Lenny, and Benny just standing in the same room.
Yeah, it's definitely a very unique sound. There's no doubt.
Thank you.
I liked it.
Welcome to Paradise.
Oh yeah, that's another one where Lenny's playing some stuff and I tape it and I was like, man, this is so cool. I think because I just want to be tough, I just want to be a rock and
She
roller.
wishes she was a guy and was in Life Sabbath and wore a denim vest as junior high school.
It gets me going, and I don't write it. I would never be able to do that. So to have like my own private little creation.
So you have a hard rock side to you.
I do.
Yeah, and then
but
you
I
got
can't
a soulful
play
side
it.
to you.
Yeah.
And
I went through a jazz phase where I literally went a year where I only sang. I just made stuff up on stage.
What's funny?
band.
If you were singing today, if you went back in time, like you're 25 now, you would have been a pop star. You would have been a pop star.
Yeah.
Except I hate pop music. Like
they would have pushed you into that, man.
They kept trying back then. There's always this encouragement to get to the pop thing, and
because they want to sell records and they figure pop's the way to do it.
Yeah, I have 3 rejection letters from what's his name?
Beautiful rejection letters.
I have lots
Very
of
well
beautiful. I swear to God,
very well
like,
written.
we just don't know what to do. We
no,
can't
but then
do this
just
to
to tell you like this, like one of them from Sony saying, "You're
In
amazing.
Nashville.
You're incredible.
You're a true artist.
You're a real artist. There's no way we would call you a.
We can't do this.
We
to
couldn't.
you.
Those, man.
Yeah, we couldn't pigeonhole you as a country artist because that's what Rick Hall wanted her to be.
Was it a situation that you were just in the wrong place, in the wrong time, in the sense that here's a talented person that they just couldn't find a home for?
Fame Studios,
and
Muscle
wasn't there a
Shoals,
major merger, amongst
Time
Warner,
Warner,
and I didn't know
I
that
remember
for
that.
15
'Cause
years.
I used to be in the industry. I was on the TV side of that stuff.
No shit.
So when that happened, she got stuck.
So Jerry Wexler
No
hands me a
outlaws.
Vanity Fair before I get on the plane to go somewhere. He hands me a Vanity Fair magazine. It was about the Time Warner merger, but it was 15 years after I'd left Warner, or a long time. And I had no idea about any of that. So right as I'm getting signed, he said the bean counters took over. And that's how when Michael Austin let me leave the label, he handed me some money and he signed me out of the $850,000 recoupable.
No recoupable.
He wiped it clean.
That never happens.
He's like,
just
So
doesn't.
you didn't owe him money.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
I
awesome.
don't know the
That
money. And
never
he said,
happens.
he said, I'm leaving. My dad's left. Everybody's going with Geffen. They started DreamWorks. He's like, and if I leave you here by yourself, they're going to shelve you. And that's hell. He explained to me what that is. That's like, if you don't know what it is, it's hell for a musician writer. That means you can't do anything else and we own you.
Yeah, I think
But we're not doing
Springsteen went through that
anything with
phase.
you.
Yep.
and he
A
had to
lot
take
of people have
couple
gone
years
through
over
it. It's just a terrible place. He's like, but they'll look at what it costs, what it made, and they'll shelve you. He's like, I don't want that to happen. So he freed me. But I kept thinking I needed a label, so I kept chasing that down. But
So before we get into let's do the last song. Then I have a question about that. Peace and muffucking love.
Muffucking love.
Muffucking.
Yeah.
singing that was so funny because I couldn't cuss, but like, it was Bobby taught me how to slide. So I'm playing guitar in the studio, and I just get these notes and this chord thing, and I'm just start singing. I wish you peace and motherfucking love. And he's like, that's it. So we wrote the lyrics together later, but
Then Chris Hicks from Marshall Tucker Band came in and played the
I sent it
solo
to
on that.
Chris, and Chris put the little doodles on it.
You know, I went to your debut, your McCourty's.
McCurdy's, yeah.
McCurdy's. I was there when you guys did this.
Oh, that's cool.
Wasn't Chris there? Didn't he show up?
Chris Hicks didn't come
No.
for
There
that
was
night.
some guitar player that you had.
Jimmy
That was
DeLisi.
Jimmy DeLisi.
And then you had the two girls that we just
Yeah.
mentioned were there.
Yeah.
I was there for that.
That's
Aw,
cool.
Yeah.
thanks, honey.
Now, DeLisi and I were in a band on Enigma called Juliet from the 80s. And that's
And I used to, when I was 16, take my fake ID and go see him play with his band. I mean, they were a rocking band. That was great. He's
Yeah.
greatness.
well, that first they had, let's see, Kevin DeBrow produced one, and I don't know.
Between DeLisi and Richie Kicklighter, when I was 17, somebody said, you got to come see this player. And it was Richie Kicklighter. And I was blown away that level of talent was in my hometown.
I want to talk about all the wonderful musicians that live here or have lived here that you've
It's
collaborated with.
extraordinary.
But the first thing I want to do, because I know my viewers are going to want to hear this, talk about your connection with the Allmans.
Okay, so our dad and our Uncle Sid, they basically grew up with Dickie Betts. And so Dickie and
No, so Dickie's from Bradenton, like he's a homegrown
Dickie's
guy.
Yeah.
4 or 5 generations
Okay.
Florida. Yeah, he's from here. And he
and
he
according
would
to
play,
Annie,
and Barry
very Oakley.
Oakley and Dickie and Uncle Sid would play locally all over. And like if they were going to travel, they'd get on the motorcycles.
So were the Allmans on hiatus when this was happening?
No,
this
it's
is
before.
This is the
Growing up.
60s
So
Like
this was like before
children.
69.
Yeah.
Yeah,
As
this is
kids, they
early
grew up
60s.
together.
or mid 60s when everybody got back from Vietnam and the guys everybody lives with their parents or whatever. And Annie, our friend, had a house. We found all this later, but she had a house and she was a 17-year-old and they moved in with her because
Their moms wouldn't let them rehearse in
they
their
needed
house.
a place.
They rehearsed at
So
her
when
house.
the Allman Brothers started playing together, just feeling it out, they would rehearse at her house. And I mean, so Allman's really started in Sarasota. I know everybody argues about the Jacksonville and everything else, but
really started
the
here.
dawning of it, because Barry and Richie are the seeds of that. And then later met Dwayne and Greg, but Barry and Richie, they were local phenoms. In fact, when the Allman Brothers actually did get together and they're gelling up there in Jacksonville or the big house,
Wasn't it Macon?
Macon, that's
Yeah.
it. The guys, Barry and Dickie would come back to Florida to play so that they could make money and take it back to feed the rest of the band while they're working out the Allman Brothers stuff. So it was like this really formative moment.
But
And
Dad was-
Dad and Sid, I mean, they're just a band. And so they take them with them to be the heavies or whatever.
Just to be their
Just to
guys.
be their guys.
Okay, so
And-
now that so your father was the connection, then you started getting, when you got older,
Uh-huh.
you were able to then sing in some cases.
Well, your
Yeah.
mom.
Because, and my mom did one stage mom thing, and it's a great story because when Greg and Dickie would do their original stuff, and they would always hire local people like the Tollers or whatever, and
Yeah,
Bruce and
the
Mom
Toller
takes-
brothers, there was Dan,
Yeah.
and what was the
Yeah.
other cat?
Frankie.
Dan
Frankie, yeah.
and Frankie. Yep. And Mom took me in to see Greg Allman, and she said, "This is Buddy Yoakum's daughter, and she wants to be a singer." And he let me sing Stormy Monday. And of course, then I'm like
Isn't
a
that
puppy.
great? That's a great
It was
story. man.
amazing.
Did
And
you still sing that to this day? You still,
yeah.
I
you guys still
do
cover that?
because of that. And I do it that way because that's the first
Their
and only
version of
time
it.
I heard it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard other people after that, and I'm like, oh, I wouldn't even really recognize it. I like
Me
the
and
way they
Lenny
did
were the
it.
first time. The funny thing with the Almonds is I meet my birth mother and then my father, and I'm hearing all these stories. But I don't know this. If it's full of shit, I don't know. I don't know who this guy is. And turns out it's all true. And here's this album, and there's his name on it, and one of the writers, The Heat is On. We were just talking about it, and then me and Lenny, we go, well, we get a phone call from Donna. I go, and there's Richard Forrest Betts on the, remember caller IDs when they first came
Yeah.
out? All right, what the hell is that? Our Forrest Betts, that's what it. And I listened to it, and she said, this is Donna Betts, and there's going to be passes for you. And so I called up Lenny, and we went. Of course, there were no passes. There was no nothing. And, but they had it was just miscommunication. They wrote me down as Mr. Yoakum. My name's LeClaire. So they didn't find it. But we went to the show, and it was really something to meet Greg. After hearing all these stories, I walked up to him. I said, hey, my name's Tony. I'm Buddy Yoakum's son. Said, tell you hello. Like that. And he just looked up at me, started crying.
Aw.
And he looked at me, and then he goes, man, he goes, where's, everybody got excited. Where's Buddy? Where's Buddy? And Lenny was standing there with me, and it was the weirdest thing. And when we got done, went to say goodnight and thanks for the show and all that. Gave me a big hug. Said, you tell your dad I miss him. Please call me whenever you can. And he looked at me. And that's when he said, "Oh, I weighed about 160 pounds back then." He goes, "Man, you know how much you look like your sister?" I was.
Man, you were amongst greatness, dude.
Oh,
He's the
I'm like,
goat.
wow.
And they were around town when I was growing up. Like
They were accessible.
Yeah, they were around.
You run into
they
them,
would
I
play.
guess.
You would see them. You go see them. They were part of the fabric. I think part of the reason our musical community is so strong here is because of them, because they
Snyder.
stayed here, and the Almonds family kind of the thing was infused in this area. And it's not just them. I mean, obviously before them there was great stuff going on in Florida. I had a really long talk with Henry Paul from the Outlaws, because years ago I wanted to do a festival of just locals, but I wanted them to headline it because they're kind of local and they would bring people. And so we start talking. He goes, "Man, even before you were born, the tropics ruled." And there was all kinds. He starts listing all these great players and bands that came out of Florida that you don't think about. And like we're left off the lexicon of great music states and areas, but it's not.
I mean, Sarasota isn't really known on the map, I think, as like a great classic rock place because it's so touristy.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's so like
But it
corporate.
is.
But there's guys living around here in pockets, you know, like from Tampa, Manatee County, Sarasota County,
Steve
Charlotte
Perry.
County. And you guys are helping bring it alive because you'll collaborate with a lot of these guys, or a lot of these guys will come see you.
Yeah.
You know?
It's nice. I called Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo, you know, I called him up because I was hearing it on the radio. I'm like, oh my God, you know, we should be doing that. We should cover that. And so I called him.
Driving to a gig, and so she calls Rick Derringer. And it's like.
And he answered the phone. He
Hi,
goes, Twink. And I was like, he just answered the phone. I knew it was me. And it's just so funny because you know them, but you don't know them. It's not like they're your best friends or anything, but they know you, and it's just bizarre.
Well, there's you guys have instant credibility. There's a respect. So when you guys make a call, I'm sure that people will take your call, you know. And
it's just nice to be thought of that. Like
well,
that.
it was fun to pull up at Rid
like
Fest, and there's Paul Rogers driving by with Howard Leese on the back of a golf cart. And Howard, Twink! And I'm going, yeah, what's up?
And your mind is
like, if I'm going to call my 17-year-old self and go, you know, that Paul Rogers can.
That's what I think of. I'm like, I want to call my young person self and go.
Do you guys have any connection with Brian Johnson at all?
Yeah.
Because he showed up at one of Bill Kenny's Paragon events.
Oh, sure.
I saw that picture.
He rolls in, and I didn't recognize him, and I basically walked past him, and I was like, holy shit, is that Brian Johnson?
But Brenda doesn't look any different. She never ages. She's great.
She looks just like she did in that video.
She's just beautiful. Yeah, I mean, it's a really neat musical community, and I grew up going and seeing live music all the time, like Jimmy DeLisi and Richie and stuff. And then, of course, I'm in a band from early age, and it's always been about live music for me. And I'm really glad because it seems like the venues are taking it more seriously.
Don't you miss the 5 o'clock club? That place was
do.
legendary, man.
It really
was. Such a great moment.
George Generoso, man.
So he sold it, and then the new owner ripped the stage out eventually.
Oh yeah, it's just another sports bar. Evie's. We don't need more of those, but whatever. I would like to own a theater at some point and just play there.
I'd like to own one and rename it the 5 o'clock club.
Hell yeah.
Cool.
Hell yeah.
So you and I share a couple of venues. We love the Paragon Seafood Festivals. We love doing those. We got
lots of fun.
We have a couple coming up. What I like about it is it's 90 minutes to just go and just rock.
Yeah.
Done.
And get paid and go home.
Give your best and leave.
I just got to get my bass and go home. I
love festivals. Yeah.
Especially it's top notch all the way around. The sound people, they have to work within the parameters of what the city ordinances are as far as decibel levels and all that. But if you took them off the leash, man, they could go. Ray and the sound people.
I love Ray.
Oh, she's so great.
They're really
She's
good.
so good.
I love her.
Carlos, good people.
I love festivals, man. That would be the perfect life. Theaters and festivals for the rest of
We
the
opened up for you guys one time down in Naples, and the funny story was I got nervous because like you guys were coming and you're looking at us playing, and I think you came up or something to put your stuff on the side, and I started was playing the wrong song or something.
Oh no.
Hit the wrong notes. I'm like, oh fuck, Tony.
That's so cute.
No, I know. I always like because I always want to make sure.
But don't you get nervous
when
other musicians are staring at you? I get like, why are you staring at me?
Oh
man?
yeah.
Like leave me alone, you know?
Oh yeah. That's why it's nice when they say something nice because you're like, oh okay.
I get excited whenever I don't know. It's like our little gang, you know. It's like, hey, you know, you can recognize each other.
Oh yeah. Well, now I'm different now. Now I'm cool, you know. Back then I was nervous as fuck.
Me too. I'm cool too.
We were doing it. Me and Letty were opening for Mr. Big, and it was either it was Mr. Big or Tallis. Or the other. There's Billy Sheehan. I love Billy Sheehan.
Oh yeah.
Love Billy Sheehan.
He's a beast.
Oh, so he comes out and he was. I don't know how long he's never been a drinker or whatever, but he was drinking something. Oh, sorry. And He comes out and it was they opened with Addicted to That Rush. And it's just, he's just left hand. He's drinking something on a spotlight and he just threw it at the wall behind him.
What animal.
Bam! That's how the song kicked in. I'm like, oh, and I'm right up front, getting my face blown off, and he comes down and I got my hand up and he just saw us. So he slapped my hand, bruised me like from here to here. I was like,
His hands are that long?
He hit me that much.
Wow.
He hit me that long.
He's slapping the bass.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I never felt like, oh, I don't deserve to be here. I shouldn't be here. I never felt, when I looked up, there's Billy Sheehan. I was like, that's fucking Billy Sheehan.
Yeah, right.
I was excited,
That
you
is
know?
cool.
I never got that
I've had
weird
other musicians talk about
TM
other
Stevens
parts
made me
of the
nervous.
world where they say it's a competitive community musically and stuff. And I'm like, I don't feel that here. I feel like here we're all
Everybody
like a
gets
big
along.
family.
I mean, I consider you guys to be one of the big anchor bands, like Kettle of Fish, you
thanks.
guys, Dr. Dave, right?
Thank you.
There's like
yeah.
a core, and you can see that, Bill likes to bring you guys on the same festival,
Yeah.
whatnot. Then there's other lower tiers. I guess we're in that lower tier, which is fine. We get work. We're happy, right?
Work
Everybody's
is
happy.
good.
Work.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with work.
And then he'll bring in, a tribute. He'll have like a Fleetwood Mac.
Yep.
He'll have like the American Stones,
Yep.
which is great. And it's
Sure.
cool, right?
People are
I
getting out of the
wanna
house to go
do-
see people play music.
I love Twisted Fork. I love playing there. Man.
That's
I love
fun.
playing Twisted Fork, and it looks so good on video and pictures. You look like
We
you're
have
doing
so many
something.
wonderful-
I have one. My friend Sal took a picture of you doing Sanctuary video.
Oh, cool.
I think you've seen it because it's on
Okay.
YouTube.
Okay.
He's the guy that always sits in the front row.
Yes,
Everybody,
yes.
white beard.
Yeah.
With his wife. And
Yes, Denise.
They're very
They're
nice.
friends of mine, yeah. But there's a great video of you. It came out really good.
Oh,
Because
good.
sometimes the problem is that when people take videos,
They go beyond the PA.
sometimes it could suck. And
then
then like now it's up there and you're like, fuck, I wish it wasn't up there. Right?
Yeah, or he gets right up when they get up next to you. So they've got a good visual, but there's no monitor or speaker or anything. And they put it out there, and Tony goes,
makes
please
me
take
nuts.
that down. It just makes us sound like terrible, and then people get offended.
Yeah.
So you can't control. My ultimate goal would be to audio track every single show and have 3 cameras going. Because at this point, like after my birthday, I got really stressed out and had a lot of anxiety because I'm like, we have to do it all ourselves if we're going to get anywhere. We're not in some kind of market where, the pop thing. So we're not going to get that kind of support. We have to film ourselves, make ourselves.
Yeah.
And I'm not whining because I know the young kids will be like, whatever, I do that all the time.
That's how
They've
we
got
do
it
it.
all worked out. But I don't. And so now I'm trying to work that out.
This goes out to the geeks and believers like you. Oh, the future's here, it's the one we read about in school. Puppet fighting ain't subsided, soon we'll have a war on Mars. It's time to raise your voice, it's time to take up your cause.
Let's talk about the people behind, your performances, because on this show, I like to talk about your performance. Like I like to talk about, you're using inner ears,
Mhm.
you're using monitors, who does the set list, what do you do when requests come in? Do you handle that well? I mean, like,
Mhm.
so we're going to get to that in a second, but
Okay.
do you want to give a shout out right now to any of your crew or the people that are
Yes.
helping you?
Every
Because-
single person that's ever worked with us, let's see, Benton Bird, and
Tracy,
Tracy,
Tracy English,
Tracy English,
Tom
Scott.
Jesse, who takes the best pictures in history. And if I could afford it, I'd just have him come and sit. and
Scotty
take pictures.
Thames,
Scotty, and Finn.
Finn,
Finn was like one of our
all the way
first
back.
ones. I mean, what happened? People would just show up and they'd
Kenny
just
Hoyt.
be there helping all the time. And then we finally were able to pay him. Kind of how when I first got hired in my first working band, and they said, Twinkle, we've had a meeting. Mike Koch had just joined the Hurricanes, and they said, we had a meeting, and we realized since you're here all the time that we're going to start paying you $15 a night. We're going to give you $15 a night if you sing a bunch of songs with us. But it's like that. They just show up. They want to be there. And I love that.
It was very organic, those guys coming along, and I'm very grateful
Yeah.
for every one of them.
I love the fact that everybody in the band, like when we first get there, you'll see
And
everybody
Troy Parrish,
talking
our original
to each
drummer.
other, and we enjoy each other.
So who puts up the lighting rig?
that was those guys we just mentioned.
We
That's a lot of
used to-
work, man.
Oh yeah,
We used to do it. Now we hire out,
yeah,
which is funny because Doug Caldwell is Toy's son, and Toy
Marshall Tucker.
was one
Yes.
of Dad's best friends.
No kidding.
I remember
Yeah.
when he died because Dad was sobbing.
Yeah, we've got a few sound companies that we use. We do own more than enough,
We have
but
a
when you
truck
do
sitting
that,
at our house filled with all our stuff, and we miss it because we have R2 and D2, which are those lights that do their own. They're like robots, and you can hear them. They go that.
they're huge. There's
I
there's
love
giant
you got
Martins.
steam and the fog and all that great stuff.
Yeah.
So no, you guys have a very professional look. But I know sometimes the
Thanks.
spaces are limited, so there's only so much you can do. At certain
That's
Yeah.
all you can do.
And we do miss it because when we hire out, they don't do it the way we had it. Like we have everything, but that's a lot.
Everyone's got
and we need
lighting
somebody to
cues,
do
and
it.
you got to
know?
pay. You have to pay people
You
to
have
do
to pay
that.
people.
There's no doubt.
So a large portion of our paycheck goes to production, and
Yeah, our shows cost for us before we make any money $600.
if we were smart, we would go acoustic and have nothing and just
You could
rake all the
you could
money
do
in.
one set of just acoustic.
Yeah.
And go.
We have been talking about it. And you know what else I'd like to do? Because I'm going to start scheduling at least every 3 months an all original show. And I thought it'd be really
Well, we
cool
have a
in
place.
that.
We do have a place now. We got set up,
Friend of
and it's going to
ours.
be similar to this, but it's really big. This guy had a post office shipped from
It's
upstate New
called
York
Dougie's
down here,
Barn.
and he built it together. It's got this giant air handler,
No
and he's
shit.
got a stage in there.
It's just like a man cave, but
Wow.
on
Yeah,
land.
it's
And-
massive.
And it's got a stage, and we could set up our stuff there and do a theater.
we can
our
do
show.
videos in there. We can do shows in there. Like invite.
But it is his place at his house, so we
Yeah,
don't
they
get
can't just show
discouraged.
up in the middle of the night on.
But you know,
Saturday.
everything costs money. So if you do it at a theater, you got to pay the theater. Well, what if nobody comes? So I just want to start doing it where we can amass video footage and audio recordings of live stuff. Because throughout my life, that's been my main goal, is to try and capture that energy transference that's in live shows. Because in the studio, no matter what you do, it's not the
I think once
same.
you've won after something, when you're doing basic tracks, if you don't get it, like first 2 takes, I think once you hit something 5 times, if you start working on it too much, you can tell like the vibe of it's gone.
But also, when you're with people, there's a tangible energy
Yeah.
exchange. There's
But like
something
when
happening.
you're performing and you're seeing people dancing in front of you, do you just try to keep them dancing? Would you even call some audibles off the set list?
Oh,
Or
what-
are you going to stick with the set list regardless?
Oh no, we just recently started having set lists because Tony would be so mad at me because my whole life I've gone, I'm just gonna read the room and I'll see how I feel, and
And that's cool for you, but it's not cool for us, man.
right. Right.
we
And
It's like I
have to
gotta
tune.
prepare, and plus there's a lot of downtime because what do you want to do? And he's like, I will pull my hair out. If
I will
have to
kill
hear-"
somebody. What do you guys want to hear? I don't care what you
So
want to hear.
together we like have this professional thing. Because back before we were in a band together, like I had that jazz band. I'm literally making up. There was a guy who owned a place, Fandango, and his name was Fred. And Fred was Persian, and he'd say, "Twinkle, I don't care what you play, just come play." So every Thursday I'd be there, and I was exploring, I had seen an interview with people that played with Miles Davis, and the guy's like, "Man, if Miles caught us backstage running licks, he'd dock our pay." You had to come up with that shit on the fly. I was like, "Oh, I like that," So I did a whole year, and I would go in and I would just start singing, and we still play Fly on Silver Wings came like that. Well, I went like this in the microphone. And I just start singing it.
That was another song.
And then, oh yeah. But the point being, the guys would jump in. Some musicians could do it. Some were like, no, man, unless
And we're coming from this other thing that was rehearsed to death. There wasn't a spare second of
Nothing out
time
of
wasted
place.
on stage. Nothing out of place. Every move was rehearsed.
together,
Every
it's a
bit of
good
stage
mix. I love
banter
it.
was rehearsed. Changing guitars, throw it, catch it. I mean, it's like now.
It's like Las Vegas. It's like
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like this mix. I like that it's
And then I gotta come in
actually a
and deal with
band.
But,
this-
but that's good.
Yeah.
That's good training.
It was good training for me.
Right.
To suddenly, I couldn't do that.
Right.
I couldn't go
But,
up.
but now you're with an artist who's
Yeah.
truly an artist doing her craft.
Right.
So like you have to,
Opened my brain.
You
And
made me sound cool. Thank you.
It's true. Well, pride and joy, staple of all bar bands. So I couldn't go up and do that song and then I couldn't stretch and jam on that song. I didn't know how to do that stuff. I could play all the Rush you want. I could play all the Dream Theater stuff. I can play that. I sit down, learn it, play it. I couldn't jam on that and let you take a solo and here come back in. Oh, that bar. That was only one bar. That's
A
completely
guy
wrong.
like you needs patience.
Yeah. Oh, I had no idea how to
Yeah,
do
because
that.
you're playing a different type of music where, man, you were like, you were probably using a pick. and
Absolutely.
You were rocking
Know
out.
every note. Just make sure you got it exactly
I
right.
think the blues has got a feel to it, right? Just,
Yes.
You have to like kind of like
And,
live it to
and
some
I
degree.
always thought of jazz as like a verb, not a genre too. Like jazz to me, I went through this whole couple years where that's all I listened to was Miles Davis and John Coltrane. And I was so into it because that whole idea of what if you didn't know what you're going to do and you just
Are
let
you talking
it
about more
come
like the
out?
cool jazz, the sexy jazz?
Real
Are you talking
jazz.
more like the Brand X, upbeat, high energy jazz?
I'm talking about any jazz that's just made up right now on the fly. I'm not talking about like the pop stuff. I'm talking about
So the improvisations.
improvising, learning that if you just don't know what you're going to do and you really just empty out yourself and start channeling some shit, you're going to come up with some amazing
But
stuff.
that's what makes you Twinkle. That's what makes you unique. Seriously, because a lot of people can't do that.
I can't do that.
And
Yeah.
when I teach, I say, in fact, remember Solo? There was this young kid and he was super talented singer and stuff. And he was
Oh,
very
yeah.
into show stuff and
Yeah.
theater.
Mhm.
And his mom was there. And I said, look, I make everybody write. I'm just going to play some chords and I'm going to play the same chords over and over. And I want you to just find the worlds within these notes and come out with something. And this kid starts just
Beautiful.
amazing. His mom's crying because he'd never done it before. And he's crying because he didn't know he could do that. And I'm like, the act of creation to me is very fascinating because there's a window you open. And if you don't know you can open it.
Do you enjoy teaching?
Oh, I do. I love it. And it's rare. I mean, people come to me because I'm not normal, I'm not going to teach
No,
you in a normal way.
But you're not doing the scales and all that stuff. don't worry.
No.
She's
I'm-
pretty hands-on, like physical with these kids too.
Yeah, and I do
And
say,
people-
right off the cuff, I'm like, I will be touching you. So like,
Yeah.
I hope that's
Don't be
okay.
offended.
It's got to come from
Right.
here.
Yeah, because what I did was I reverse engineered what am I doing? And I started really paying attention a few years back, and he encouraged me to teach because there was an ad in the paper. And he's like, you could do that. I was like, I have no credentials. He's like,
What?
who's more qualified than you? So I started teaching, but I talk about what it is, what singing is. It's like yelling, there's physical things that I try and teach them about it. And everybody talks about this, but you have a lot of room in here and you got to expand. And I'm convinced that swimming helped me a lot because I wanted to be a mermaid and I'd sink to the bottom and I'd hold my breath as long as humanly possible and stuff like that. But then when it gets to the creation of it, you don't know what your voice sounds like if you're always doing songs like the record because you're hearing their voice in your head and you're trying to duplicate it.
But that's hard. It's hard not to do that.
Right. And so how are you going to get out of that? Well, you have to write because when you write your own thing, the only person that's ever saying that is you. So then you really start to discover yourself.
That's a very good point.
And I've seen people do it who didn't think they could do it or had never even thought of it. And I'm like, this is number one. We're going to start. So, and I peel everything back. I'm like, no affectations, because every era has its own, like, you'll hear the tone of voice.
All the girls wanted to sound like Britney Spears, so they're all sounding like they're taking a dump.
Yeah, exactly. And
But-
every era has its own pop thing that left an impression on people's voices. I'm like, peel it all off and pretend you're like an 11-year-old boy that your mom is making sing happy birthday for somebody. Just straight and clean. Happy birthday to you, not happy birthday to you. There's nothing extra.
I just got so uncomfortable just now.
And, and if you can sing like that and start peeling it away, you start to find yourself. And every voice is beautiful in its own self. And you don't know that until you find it. And I love helping people find it.
Those are great tips.
Thanks.
So how many albums do you think you have left inside of you to go out and create some more? Like
20.
So we there could be a lot more coming from Twinkle and Rock
There's
Soul Radio.
20 so far. And I want to go back in the history, everything that's not been lost or thrown away or
So
destroyed.
are there songs you have on tape that you just haven't no one's heard yet?
Oh,
Yeah.
Really?
There's
So
lots.
you have enough material that you can throw an album together right now.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
I have 20 albums worth that I have released, but like I printed them out and sold them at my shows kind of thing,
Not actual like releases.
not
but-
like out there in the universe. And so now I'm thinking it's important to put them together and that every song has its own story because it came from a part of my life. So you could like literally watch my life in song and understand where I was going. And a lot of it earlier is kind of sad and a depressed young girl looking for love and all that stuff. and also trying to be somebody and trying to establish yourself as an artist, as a young woman.
And the main thing about all that stuff is it's not because it's like, oh, we're so special or she's so special, or it's because we're all, what makes me happy probably gonna make you happy. What would upset me would probably upset you. So when you tap into those things of like being rootless or rudderless or anything and not knowing what's going on, we all know what that feels like.
I think that's what makes art so important. It's like if you have,
You're really good
if
at
you're-
translating is what I'm trying to say.
thank you. If you're hurting or whatever, I use hurting because it seems to be the most powerful way to write songs. But if you're hurting and you're depressed and you're sad and you don't know what to do, if you can find those physical feelings and you start writing about them and get them out, whether you're a painter or novelist or a songwriter, now it's out. It has lessened in here. And now it's out for somebody else to hear or look at, because then that helps them, because now they know they're not alone. Like Freaks
So
and Weirdos.
does it get you off watching people totally digging your music, man, and
Oh,
singing it
God,
and dancing
yeah.
into it? And
I have more
cranking it?
fun singing my own stuff than anybody else's stuff. And I have fun singing everybody else's stuff too.
And she,
but-
a big conflict we have a lot of times is the when we're doing our original material, when we're doing a show, what we used to do up in New York, Big Bad Wolf shows, it's Big Bad Wolf. We never weren't in an original band. That's all we ever did. And
You
so I
were in
didn't,
an original.
we were in an original band. I didn't know from playing covers, didn't want to play covers. So I come down here and, oh, we're going to play covers. We never sat down and wrote a list and let's go learn them and practice them. Let's do those songs.
What do you know? What do you know? Okay,
Yeah,
let's do
what
that.
do you know? We'll do that. Oh, you remember this? Yeah. Well, I kind of, okay. And go do it. So if you ever came to our shows, it might not be exactly right. I don't know. We're just going back at it. And then you look up, oh, wow, I can go on the internet and just get the real words. Cool. And some of us learn the words.
But doing our originals,
But the
to
originals
me,
on it
is
during the
most
show,
important thing.
I couldn't stand playing our originals for people that weren't listening to them.
But he fights me on it because he's like, I don't want to play, but I
Well,
have to. Or
Well,
I'll
I just
kill
don't want to
myself.
beat people up. What I like is when someone's out there, when they're there to see you and they're seeing your material, I love that. And when I've been there enough times and they know your material, I love that.
Yeah.
But when you go into a brand new room that you've never been to before and they don't know who you are and they've never heard you before, I would love to just go in and play our originals and have them, but that's not what's going to
Well,
happen.
look, you have two types of fans. You have your core base that will always come no matter what.
Yep.
Then you got the casual ones that know of you guys and will
Yep.
come catch you when they can. And then you got some new ones that you're going to convert, like brand new fans, man.
Right.
You know, so that brand new fan is going to get off on that original, man.
You got to earn them.
Yeah.
And it's like,
so we
I
try
want,
and balance, like earlier you were saying, when do you interject your stuff? It's like, if you just did like Guns N' Roses, Sweet Child of Mine, everybody, I have to cover that and release it.
And you
by
sing
the
it
way.
really well.
Thank you.
And so, like, there's
And
some songs
everybody
you have
loves
to
that
do,
song.
man.
You have to do that. And
Like,
everybody
you
loves
do
that
Janis
song.
Joplin, people want to hear that.
It's
fun.
And I didn't do that until like 15 years ago because I didn't grow up on her. You know, I was only doing stuff that I grew up on. But when I found, people just kept asking, please, please. So finally I learned it, but I'm not going to do it the way anybody else does it, right? So I have to sing a cappella.
intro to one song
Bobby
and
McGee.
go to
That's
another
cool.
one.
That's cool.
And I
that's what
like
makes you
doing
unique.
that. Exactly. And brings it, at least you give it you make it.
Are there any
your own.
songs you dread when they come on the set list and you're like, oh shit, I got to sing it?
Yeah, but I'm not going to say them because then people would be,
What?
well, it used to be Honky Tonk Women and now it's Sledgehammer. But like where I'd feel like, oh,
I love doing it. It's got that
Stepping
Or
down.
like you're like, hey, you sing one, I need a break. Like
Yeah.
I need to catch my breath.
We do-
I used to try and do that, but I can't stay off the stage long enough. Apparently, I just can't stop.
I wind up
talking.
doing it. I
Or
wind up
singing.
doing a good, like, sometimes I'll do
I
it.
wish he and Lenny would do this acoustic thing before every second set, and he would do "People Say John Oka."
yeah.
You've done One More Silver Dollar. I've heard.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I've done
Yeah,
that.
and I
that was
miss
fun.
that. And like he's very resistant to if we did something 30 years ago.
No,
why
I'll
can't
do-
we pull it out now? He's like,
Are you
we're not doing
expected
that.
to sing every single song like a 90-minute set? Like you're expected? Do you get any breaks at all anywhere?
Yeah,
I do because he sings
do
a
about half of
lot,
them.
and I get tired of hearing myself. And I don't think anybody wants to hear the same voice all night. And I definitely know that they don't. And one thing about being a girl is, I love a male
female.
voice, and I wish could sound like that sometimes. Like if I'm doing a punk song, I love punk, by the way, but I'm like, I still sound like a girl. I'm just always gonna be, even if I'm trying to tell him. So he used to call it one. He's
Oh.
like, every time you'd sing rock
Oh.
and roll, heavy rock. You do
She
this
does
thing.
this weird
I want you to stop
affectation
doing
with her
it.
voice. Stop doing that.
The wanna. Like they were doing, I believe them bones. What's the name of that song?
Alice in Chains.
I love Alice in
There's a
Chains.
certain tonality in the vocal delivery. look,
So I
it's
want to
that
go sing it
nasally.
with them.
But
makes
no,
dead fun of me.
Big
It's
Bad Wolf
terrible.
was doing a reunion at Lemoore. It was 25-year reunion, and they wanted us to go up and play at the Staten Island location. So we're like, all right. So Joey's coming over, and we're going to rehearse. And so Joey wasn't here yet. So she goes, what are you waiting for? I'm like, Joey's going to sing like, what are you going to do? I'm like, oh, what do you know? And we were just listening to Dem Bones. And she goes, oh, do that one. I know that one. And so we're like,
God, I love it.
and then she comes over, I believe them both. I'm like, oh, God, shut up. Stop.
And Lenny, when Lenny's laughing, he throws his head back. He was laughing so hard. I was like, you
Tears.
can stop laughing now.
Tears.
But that's the freedom that Lenny gives me, that these guys give me, is when we write stuff.
But I
that
was
now
so
is mine and
surprised.
I can sing to
Do you
it.
feel like you're blessed to have these guys with you?
Fuck
Because
yes.
maybe other guys wouldn't give you the freedoms and the privileges that you
Or
have.
they just weren't into that. Like, I loved my jazz guys, like Alex Tomeno, one of the finest players I've ever played with. I love Richie. But
Pedro
when it comes down
Aravello.
to
God,
I know Pedro, yeah.
great.
Mike Koch, but these guys are all, they're not into the rock. And I grew up on
They're
it.
into it. They're just not into the same ones you are.
They don't want to write it, like I don't know. I feel like Lenny and Tony give me that freedom of
Dwayne
that
Betts
heaviness.
was,
that
Dwayne was
energy.
all into all my bands that
Well,
I
but
was
think
in.
about it. These guys are from a heavy background.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what you wanted.
And it gives me what I
Yeah.
want. And I went through all my exploration. I did my world music band. I did my jazz band. I did everything. My first touring band was a pop. And I don't like pop. And I didn't grow up on it. I never liked it, except when I was like 9 and I liked the Bay City Rollers. I loved them. But honestly,
And now you got the
freedom
guy.
of being able to write something like Freaks and Weirdos and go into Are You Ready? And then we'd start Give Me Shelter, but we start it with we write a song before it, and I still haven't finished it, but it's really cool because Lenny does these really
Just a
melodic
long
things,
intro.
and then it kicks into the Give Me Shelter, and it's
Remember the old days you hear
badass.
just like there'd be intros or outros to songs. They were 2.5, 3 minutes
I
long.
love intro outros.
It wasn't anything.
We
It was
grew
just
up
this
on
weird.
it.
I loved that
It's
stuff.
a part of
so we do it.
this whole like everything doesn't have to be all concise.
Well, there's a
and
concert
much
experience that maybe you're trying to give people.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, do you guys ever consider maybe doing a short solo or a short,
Yes.
even a drum
I
solo?
told Benny I want him to take a
Benny's
5-minute
so much
solo.
fun to do that, and
He does a great solo, but he doesn't want to all the time. And
he's doing solo all night.
I think one thing I would like us to incorporate more of is a little bit more of that jam band thing, where not every song, but moments throughout the show. One thing I like about us is it's powerful, it's energetic, and then we rip your guts out with love or whatever. And then we go back to heavy, and then we're dancing and we're very funky, it's got everything.
Your core audience would love that. I mean, that's what they want to hear,
And I like when people take long solos. I like stretching things. Not every song, but moments
weren't the
where...
Allmans known for that?
Yeah.
Weren't they
Yeah.
the first
And it
jam
also-
band?
Yes, absolutely.
What's the main reason? For real, if you were doing this at any point in time in the last 20, 30 years, you're out there. They'll stick you in Nashville, especially. You'll be playing, 7 hours, 5 hours, 7 hours, and you're gonna play. The only way you're going to last is if you got some guys that can solo for a while,
but I also
just to
love
save
the
your vocals.
exploration of that. Like you can find things that you didn't know existed. If
So
you
your current
stretch it.
act right now, could you tour with this? Like, could you go up to
Yeah.
Nashville and do a Twinkle show right
Yeah.
now?
Oh yeah.
And do you have any plans to leave the area at all?
Oh yeah.
Well, we want to do pocket tours because touring's expensive, of course, and we're on our own, so there's not like tour support. We do have a kick-ass lawyer, Ron Beanstalk, who believes in us, and he wants to, get us to the next thing where we have at least.
We'll send you a link for him to see who he represents. It's
He's
crazy. It's such a
amazing,
great.
and that's
oh
through
my
Artie
God, I
Fletcher,
can't
our
believe.
manager, and they have known each other since they were kids. And Ron is he's big into the music. He's like, he has no qualms about trying to find us a home in like a label where we'll get some support.
So what is it going to take to get to that next level?
I don't know.
Like, I believe so much in this record.
Thank
I want everybody to
you.
hear it. How do you get it to the next level?
That's it. So
Well,
I think
we get it to
Ron
our
said, I
attorney.
want you to give me a live version of Freaks and Weirdos, a live version of Are You Ready? And we're going to add it to, and then we're going to re-release the album, and he's going to keep promoting it. Meanwhile, I don't know if you saw it, but he started editing the video for Love. And I'm like, if you do that on every song, because that's one thing I definitely didn't do was videos when the whole world went MTV and I'm just playing live. So the only video of me my whole life is live videos. It's not like I went in and made music videos. but that's where the whole world is. And it's like, we need to do that. So there's things this year that I want us to
But I think your
focus on.
production is pretty damn good for like, you know,
Thank you.
Thanks.
for this area. I mean,
Yeah.
you're ahead of everybody else as far as that goes.
I
right?
want us to be able to take this out to the world more, but not forever. Like, I don't want to live on the road. But for instance, I was talking about New York, Jersey. I'm like, you guys are all
did
from
it.
there. Why can't we go up next summer?
We can.
Because God knows I don't want to play Florida summertime.
Wouldn't it be cool if you opened up for like a bigger named act
Yeah.
and then you went on tour with them?
Yes.
Like
Then
we
you
were
could
trying.
play the Freaks and Weirdos album?
Yeah.
The fun thing is like we're friends with
Thank
Paul
you for all these
and
supportive comments,
truly
by the way.
Charlie Starr and Paul from Blackberry Smoke, and there's a really strange reason that we're all friends, and they were big Dickie Betts fans. So when she was singing on the Rock Legends cruise, you're gonna sing. You wound up with Marshall Tucker. You were gonna sing with Skinner.
Mhm.
I don't know, but here's the Blackberry Smoke guys, and that's the chick from
Jim
Dickie.
Dandy to the rescue.
Oh God, no, Blackberry Smoke. You're thinking
Blackberry.
Black Oak, Arkansas.
They're
Blackberry
young-
Smoke.
They're harder, the Blackberry Smoke, right?
Yeah, it's like now they're like this generation's Skinnered.
Very
They're
talented.
really
They
cool.
do a cover of Can't You See?
I think so.
Yeah,
Great
yeah,
live
They might.
band.
But you got to look them up. Blackberry Smoke.
I don't know, but
You'll
your
love 'em.
question is the question I've had my whole life.
What's the next step and how to get there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
how do I get there? And you can't, when people go, it's all on who you know. I'm like, I know everybody.
Yeah.
And it's all getting in front of people. I've played Montreux Jazz Festival. When I did Montreux with Quincy Jones and Eric Clapton's band, and the next day we go to have dinner and the restaurateur comes over and he says, "Are you a singer?" And he's French, you know. And he shows me the newspaper and I was the only review. And so I'm thinking at 25 that means
That's it. I win.
I'm on. They're going to put me on tour.
Did you have a manager back then and someone that was guiding you? And
I
Yes,
did. I sort of did. Like, they took money, but they didn't really do anything. And it's such a frustrating industry for me because I just want to be in front of people. That's where I'm best.
right? No,
I'm great at writing
there's
songs.
no doubt.
I'm great at singing to people, and we are together in this. Right? Get me in front of people.
That's all.
And they never put me on tour. And I actually sat down with the Toller Brothers because they said, get a band. I said, okay, the Toller Brothers will be my band. And we were going to do that. But they never would put
You
me
did
on
the radio
tour.
tour with Chris. That was
I did it just, I thought, why can't you just put me on tour? It's the biggest label in the world, but they were going the pop route. They said, you have to be in the top 40 before we'll give tour support.
Which is
And I'm like,
backwards to how it used to be.
and I grew up around Allman Brothers thing, which was you go and get in front of people and they just demand that you come to their town, you know, it's just different. And I obviously don't know what I'm doing. Otherwise, I would've-
No, that's not true at all.
well,
But-
I don't know
You're very
how.
deprecating about that, but
It's what
here's
gets to
my
me.
final thoughts because we're going to wrap this up. And I have great questions. I'm going to ask you each the same question, but two-parter. What do you love about music, right? And what do you like about working with each other? Okay, that's the question.
Aw.
And then before I say that though, you've become a brand. Okay, Twinkle is a brand.
wow.
And I truly believe that once people sample that brand, whether it's here in Florida or it's in freaking Kansas City, they're going to fall in love with that brand.
Wow.
So
Thanks, man.
the key is that we got to figure out, and I'll help you whatever way I can, is to how do we get the product, the brand, in front of the people? Am I right?
Like this.
That's beautiful.
Like this podcast, doing the things
That's
that,
beautiful.
well, you know, I didn't know anything about this stuff. This is all fairly recent new ways to reach people, you know? So this is
This
fantastic.
podcast is growing in leaps and bounds.
It's beautiful.
And I'm sure I'm going to get great hits with you guys. You know, this will be a big episode for me. But like I've had, Dr. Dave come on and K-Love, and I've had, some other really, really, really talented people. And so it's growing in, the grassroots type of thing, And then, so now hopefully people will see this and then it'll go.
Yeah.
So maybe somebody will say, hey, I own a club in Chicago and I want to bring in Twinkle and Rock Sarasota. What's it going to cost?
We've
Right.
got a lot of that. Like we just now got Gretchen Bonaducci, Danny Bonaducci's wife, is doing a blues festival out in, I forget, I think they're in Nevada, and they want us to come do that. We get offers for those kind of things. The Vet
But if
City.
it's a one-off, you got to make it
costs them a
work.
lot of money to do.
Yes, no, of course.
And that's the thing.
You have to hook up with a promoter that's going to take you from
Give us 2
Milwaukee
shows on the
Right.
to
way.
Chicago.
Yeah.
And it's going to bring you around. So you're making money. So you're going to come
And
home.
I feel like we're this close
Yeah,
to
you're going to come on with money in your pocket as opposed
Right.
to owing money.
Right.
Right. Or at
And if we
least
could
break
make the
even.
same money that we would if we stayed home, that's all we're really shooting for. I'm not looking to break the bank on
But at
anybody.
the same time, exposing yourself to new fans is I think what we do for a living. That's why
Exactly.
we're doing this.
Exactly.
Turning people on it's great to have your core and keep playing in front of them.
Sure.
I want I want everybody to, it sounds bizarre, but like when I was little and I looked in the mirror, I was 6 years old and I thought, I'm supposed to save the world. And I don't know where that idea came from, but I pictured myself on I pictured the big festival stages in Europe, you know, those massive ones where there's the ocean of people. And I'm coming out, I'm a little kid thinking this, right? I'm coming out, I'm like, and I start singing to them. I would love that. I love big stages, but I love the little stages too. But I love people and I want to see all of them. And it's not for everybody. I know that. But the ones that haven't heard it or been with us yet and could feel embraced by that. Because what I love about music is the unifying effect it can have. And there's this great documentary about metal that
but what
made
was the question?
about what do you love about music?
What do you love about music?
And what do you like about being together?
Uh-huh.
And when this this music documentary, it's about the metalheads across the planet.
There's like different types of metal.
Yeah.
Like 1,000 different.
And they all
styles.
just love each other.
Yeah.
And there's massive amounts of people, and they're just this unification of it. To me, that's church.
So you could spread your gospel, the Twinkle gospel, through music.
Yeah.
And that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
And you're doing it purely out of love.
Yeah.
That's great.
And she actually believes it. Well, I believe
She actually believes it.
She actually does.
Well, I think she should.
You know,
She believe it.
you know,
Unless you're insane.
right?
Maybe
You know,
she's
so she
insane.
believes in all this
What
stuff.
I love about working with him is he understands me and he's protective of me, but he also is not afraid to tell me. Like I was writing this one song and he goes, blah, 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 blah. He's like, why so many words? He's like, okay, who's your favorite artist? I'm like, Paul Rodgers. Okay, sing me a song. Baby, when I think about you, I think about love. Okay, do it.
Baby, when I think about you, think about love. Don't want to live without you on your love. Feel like making love. Feel like making love. Feel like making love to you. That's the whole damn song.
Have you ever felt that's pedantic in any way? I'm like,
you ever think
no.
that sounds stupid? Think it sounds dumb? No, I don't. Okay, so why do your songs have to be, baby, when I think about you, I think about the way the light shines through into the gun of your hair when you're standing to the right and the sun shines through just exactly. It's like, oh, Jesus. Can we strip it
he
down?
taught me to edit, and he taught me
but you're an artist, and sometimes you maybe need someone like him to tame it a little bit.
To edit. Now I
preface that
understand.
thing, wait a minute, hold on, it makes me sound
okay.
No, because what I really said when I said I would never tell you, this is the person I think the greatest musician on their instrument that I've ever seen, and I've gotten to work with Joe. Jolene Turner, all my vocal heroes. I've worked with so many of them. And then I'm going to tell you how to, hell no, you know. She goes, no, really, what do you think? And that's when I said that.
So it's like
too wordy.
I always think, because Stephen King's my favorite author. And I think he probably hands a book like this to his editor, who then brings it to
Yes,
here.
of course.
And you get rid of the extraneous stuff,
Right.
you know.
And they know each other so well that the editor knows exactly
Yes, I know where you're going with this.
That's
Let's get it in a form that we can actually use.
And the whole thing, the thing about music is every great thing in my life, every single thing, every miraculous thing I can tie directly to because of being a musician.
One final thing I want to say is, do you think it's kind of weird that when you guys met each other, you were both excellent musicians? Like, was it you were born like? Weird.
Well, I'm adopted.
Did your father? I know, but
I have no clue.
There's something inside of your bodies.
DNA is real.
Yeah,
when he walked into the door, and I was 27, he was 28, and I was pregnant with Monique. And this guy walks in, and when we started talking, we had the same life. We read the same books. We both were Stephen King people, but we both grew up on music.
But you were accomplished musicians by then.
Yeah. We had both left home at 16.
Isn't that kind of strange, though?
It was real. It was amazing. Wild, man. Like,
that's DNA.
It came from somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, I could, when I picked up the guitar, I know the coolest parts of hundreds of songs. I can't play a whole song on the guitar, but I can pick up
like, remember being a little kid and you just were good at things.
Yeah, I could sing, I could play.
Like, they hand you an instrument and you understood
I could suss it out somehow.
Do you guys sometimes at a festival, when you're maybe spread apart and on big stage, do you sometimes catch a moment where you look at each other and you smile? And you
all the time.
Like, I love you and I'm so happy to be with you.
I get the most bizarre rushes of, like, every single show at some point during the show happens with Lenny.
Yep.
Happens with her.
Yep.
Where I was like, she'll do something, or I hear something. It makes me catch my breath. And I go, Jesus. Oh my God.
I'm so happy to hear that.
The history of everything comes to me.
I look over and I see it. I can't imagine not looking to my left or right and not seeing Lenny Brooks.
When I see them together, and I'm like, the history behind that, they have been together since they were kids. And now we're all together.
We've seen the whole world together.
It's like this. But we look at that big picture, small picture, microcosm, macrocosm.
He's my brother in the truest sense of the word.
He really is. And he brought him to me, and me and Lenny just have this thing writing wise. It's like, man, I said, we're like Lennon and McCartney over there. You start something.
I love his tone.
Lenny.
His sense of melody.
Well, my final thoughts, the one thing I need to say to you guys, because you're both here, there wouldn't be a Jacked Up if it wasn't for Twinkle and Rock
Oh
Radio.
man,
And I'll
why
tell
do
you the
say
story.
that?
I'll tell you the true story.
Okay.
So I was a corporate guy and I didn't play my bass for many, many years. And I was a career guy, you know, all about making money, going up the channels and whatnot. And my bass sat under my bed and collected dust.
Oh.
Like the case had this much dust on it.
Oh.
I didn't play.
Oh.
Some things happened in my life, like my mom passing and whatnot, moving to Sarasota. And I went to the festivals, again, the Paragon, which I'm going to give a shout out to Bill and how great those are.
Yeah.
And I caught you guys a couple times. Another band I saw, The Verge.
Oh yeah.
And then Kettle. And you guys inspired me, man. You inspired me. I got goosebumps hearing you sing.
Wow.
So I went and got that bass out. I dusted it off. I started thumping
What
to
was
the
it?
radio.
What?
It was an Ibanez Roadstar back then, but still, I put it on the wall because it was my first bass. I have several, obviously now, but the point is that you guys inspired me to get back to playing and then put a band together. And Jacked Up was born. That was like 6 years ago. So I wanted to tell you this both to your face.
That's cool,
Thank
man.
you for that, man.
Beautiful.
That's really cool. I love when I show up. No, it's fun. I love showing up when seeing you guys.
I'm so happy to hear that.
The first time when we did that, the first Paragon Festival that we did with you, I think I couldn't figure out how to get the car over there. Sometimes where Bill's got us parking to unload, so I'm just pulling up off the highway. I just went. I just jet up over the curb and hold in there. I'm like, oh, it's those dudes. And I'm like, okay, yeah.
No, that's great.
I love that.
So thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks for having
Thanks for
us.
having us.
And this is going to be a great show. I can
Are
tell
we
you
going
right
to
now.
do part 2 for real?
I want to do a part 2 because you have so many stories to tell about
It's
all the
crazy
people you know.
stuff. We got just a teaser. We got ghosts. We got a Bigfoot story, and we got a UFO story.
Yep, yep.
Oh yeah, man. That's awesome.
Ghosts, Bigfoots, and her
Bigfoot.
feet.
So Twinkle, this is for you. This
Nice.
is
Thank
a
you.
Jacked Up shirt.
Awesome.
Yes.
So I want you to enjoy it.
Thank you so much.
And
I
that's
love
it.
t-shirts. I'm a t-shirt
any
whore.
final thoughts before we wrap the show up?
God, I don't know. I could just talk forever. I drank so much iced tea, I froze to death. And so
What do you do to keep your voice and ready to go to sing? And then what do you do pre-show? Like, is there a ritual
I've
that Twinkle can
recently-
share with the
I'll
world?
tell you what she really
I've
does.
recently started warming up, which I never did my whole life, but I've noticed that it's something that I should pay attention to. And especially if we have long weekends where you have doubles like the festival and then we'll do another show that night. And I want to be literally doing this until the day I drop. And I don't want that husky voice. Like
Well, you don't
people
smoke
get.
or drink, so that's thank
No.
God for that.
Right. And I don't want to wear it out. That's another reason I like to teach people how to do it right, where they don't harm themselves. Because nothing makes me sadder than seeing singers that had to quit. And I'm like, oh my God, I would hang myself, right? Not literally, just kidding. But so obviously hydration and stuff like that. And I found out that we got these chili lollipops that help a lot if you are having troubles.
So they're
We'll
spicy
see.
lollipops. Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Chili, yeah,
and
but
it
it's
gets
a
your saliva
mango.
going. Salt, mango, chili.
It
Like
works.
they actually taste good.
And it gets you. You know, you ever have the?
Yeah, man. I got it right now.
It'll get
pop
you
that,
through.
Get you through.
I'll send you some.
Cool.
I
Yeah.
love them.
And I found that having those, at least on the side, but just, you find what works for you. And I think that as long as you're singing correctly and you stay hydrated, and sleep is absolute. And if you don't sleep enough, you're not going to heal your, uh-oh.
Snapping
Here.
Tony,
rubber
any final
bands.
thoughts?
No.
Now I'm going to drive home worrying that I didn't come up with something brilliant for right now.
No, this whole show's brilliant. Guys, thank
I
you very
really
much.
appreciate you. Man.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Right, it's a great
It
show.
was a lot of
and
fun.
we'll plan on a part 2 one day.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Please.
Hell yeah.
Let's do it.